Well, hello from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I have decided to get back to my regular videos here on my channel, and I'm holding my Art Poetry for Insights and Inspiration Oracle deck, and I just am so thrilled that it's here and we can do videos together. And whether or not you actually have the deck to follow along with me, I thought it would be really cool if we could choose a card maybe weekly or monthly. Good thing this is my deck, as I realized I was varnishing my little cats today. These little these little acrylic ink on canvas cats, and I was like, I really shouldn't have my cards anywhere near the matte medium. And I see that I've added some extra polka dots to my cards, so this is going to be my draft deck that I can keep and use and love. So that's kind of funny. I feel like I've put my mark on it with matte medium. Back to the deck. So this is the box that it comes in. It's a really sturdy box, and the cards are very dense. There's 71 cards, and the edges are gold accents. I'm really pleased with how these turned out, but I just want to get right to it. I am so excited to just shuffle them and pull a card with you all. There is one card missing because I had found this little magnetic fridge holder, and I really wanted to figure out a way other than when I pull a card in the morning or at night or whenever a thoughtful moment invites. What I do is I keep the card just sitting up on my dresser beside my bedside, just like that. And I think about it throughout the day and I try to reflect on it, but I love the idea of also putting it in a little magnet frame holder. I have some lovely seniors in my life that had purchased these that live in smaller like flats, really small apartments, and they don't have a lot of space. And I thought, well, it's kind of cool to be able to slip these 3.5 by 5 inch cards into the magnetic frame holder, you know, and just switch it out every day if that is sort of your practice, your intention. And the other thing that I had found was just this cute little mat, and it's 3.5 by 5 inches as well, which is 7.6 by 12.7 centimeters. And I haven't opened it yet, but it would fit my cards perfectly. Why don't we just open that right now? I'm going to just put a little hole through it here, and this is very strong plastic. I might actually need scissors, maybe. I have everything else at my art desk except scissors, of course. There we go. So this little mat I had found in the extra mat section at Michael's here in Canada, and I can't remember how much it was. I think it was less than $5, but it's a double mat, which is cool. So it's acid free, which is great. And let's just see. It fits really well. So it's almost like this Oracle deck, you know, really is 71 cards of my art with words that could almost be framed, you know, and just switched out, whether it's, you know, you want to have an intention every day or every month or every year. You know, you could get a frame and put it on your wall. So it's kind of a neat idea. I'm always excited to think outside the box. So I'm going to just set that aside, and I'm just going to stand up because these cards are fairly stiff. So when you first get the deck, if you have purchased it, it's really dense and heavy, really high quality cardstock. And, you know, for shuffling purposes, my hands are quite small. And what I do is I was splitting the deck into two, but I've decided to split it into 4. And just to kind of warm up the deck, you know, you can sort of, like what I do with some of my original watercolor paintings, if they're on really thick paper, 140 pound or 300 gram paper, I do this after I've painted them, after they dry, and it just gives it a little bit of flexibility. it loosens it up a little bit. And so here we go. I'm gonna shuffle. Oops, I'm gonna have to practice my shuffling. And you know, you can also shuffle like this. I see some of mine flipped over. And this is just a practice run because it's gonna take me a little bit of practice to really get these shuffled up. And I don't edit my videos, so it's kind of like no pressure, right? Okay, so, and this I could show you. This is what the Oracle deck looks like up close, and you can see the gold foil, those little polka dots, which you'll see in a lot of my work. And what I'm going to do is just split the deck here, and put this one on here. There's no rhyme or reason, and this is my creation, right? So there's no rules. Oh, I love this. So just talking about the fact that there's no rules, this card is my reminder today, don't get stuck in the details. And I really, really love this. I love this painting. So this was a painting that I had done in 2020, I believe. I usually sign up the side of my artwork, especially when it has a drip coming down. So this painting was originally done in acrylic ink, not watercolor. And that drip coming down is almost like I'm rooting myself prior to bringing the painting together with mark making. And I love details in my work. When I had written these words, don't get stuck in the details, it's really funny because, well, I also have a card that says, pay attention to the details. And it's one of my mountain paintings. And of course it will be a little bit tricky to find on the spot here. Let me just see if I can do a little flip through. Again, when there's 71 cards, it can be a little bit harder to find, but let's just, you know what? I'm just gonna take my time. I've been practicing slowness in my life, especially after publishing this Oracle deck. It was such an exciting time, but it was a lot of work, and you know, I ended up, well, I mean, I did really everything on my own, and my husband has been incredible to help me with the shipping, and there's been a lot of little glitches with shipping and my website, but anyways, it was like a lesson over the last, well, I guess, couple weeks. Just a lesson in practicing slowness and getting back to rooting myself into who I am and why I do what I do. And, you know, I did a show on the weekend, and it really put things in perspective for me as far as what I want in my art, how I want to spend my days. You know, life is short. How do we want to find joy in what we're doing? And you know, it just really, lately I've been thinking about, am I staying true to my beliefs, my values, myself? I'm so grateful for where my art business has taken me. I feel like it's been so successful. This Oracle deck has just, it's incredible that I have been shipping this deck all over the world. You know, I never imagined that it would go to so many different countries and to so many different people. I've met so many beautiful people, even if it's just sort of online through little emails back and forth or connection. And here it is. So that gives you a little sneak peek at some of the cards in the deck. And it was quite funny because I had written both of these cards separately, and I had a laugh when I was going through the final edit that on this particular card it said pay attention to the details, and I really wanted that card in there, and I really wanted it to refer to paying attention to the details as you're creating. And good art takes time and it takes practice, especially if you're selling your work, and just not speeding things up, which I do tend to do. I am really one of those people that naturally I want to feel productive at the end of my day. And sometimes I would skip out on little details. As an example, I can just show you. I have been working on these little mini cat canvases, and it's a fundraiser for a local rescue here in Alberta, Canada. And you know, when I first started working small, it's not my favorite thing. I find working small is really challenging, and I think when I am putting pressure on myself to do, say, a collection. So with this collection, there's at least 9 lives. I think I painted maybe about 11 or 12, and some of them didn't quite make the cut. But when, you know, when you put any pressure on yourself, especially if it's in something that you love, you know, whether it's a sport or your day job, or for myself, my art, my hobby, my passion has become it's become my business. I'm trying to find that balance because I did catch myself rushing through the initial small paintings I was doing. And this is from a collection I did several years ago. And for this particular collection, I just really wanted to pay attention to the details. And the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, in life, I really pay too much attention to the details sometimes. I overthink things. I get overly worried, overly anxious, and that's just my personality. And I love having both of these cards in my art poetry oracle deck because, you know, one day, you know, today, having pulled this card, Don't Get Stuck in the Details, I feel like this card is really speaking with me about this event that I had had on the weekend, and it just didn't suit me. You know, when you are in, you know, you're passionate about something, and when it becomes a business, I feel like it's a really fine line of really getting excited about, say, being paid for your work, your art, you know, for instance, getting monetization for my YouTube videos, the same thing. You kind of can easily get pulled in, and it can take you away from who you are, what your core is, and at the root, why did you really start, you know, whether it was doing art shows for me or why did I start painting? And I constantly have to remember why, my artist why, and what I value in life, because it's almost like it needs to bring me back to my center to ground me. I realize that I paint first and foremost for myself, and a lot of you that follow me know that. But I also have realized, especially in the last week, the last year, the last week, this weekend really just hit home that I paint for myself, and I don't want that pressure. I don't want to get stuck up in so many details that I'm rushing through the process, which is what I love the most about painting. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but pulling this card today, Don't Get Stuck in the Details, just really resonates with me. And somebody had recently written on my Instagram feed a painting that I had posted, and they said, your fine details are really what makes your art your own, your authentic style. And it was a really interesting comment because I didn't appreciate that I get a little bit too stuck in the details of life, and I also, art is my outlet. And funny enough, I would really start adding fine details to my art. I try and keep it loose, and I always keep it loose initially when I put those layers down, and then I get those details in there after. Enough about that. I did this card because some days I want to remind myself to pay attention to the details. So things that, again, I might be overlooking in my life. And I don't want this to be a video entirely about my oracle deck, but what I do is I love to pull a card. Well, I love plays on words. I love puns. My husband and I have pun competitions. It's super, super fun. And when I'd written choose a card in the morning or at night or whenever a thoughtful moment invites, I loved that. I love those words because it ties in with art poetry and plays on words. And you know, I feel like there's no rules. I want people to have this deck as, you know, maybe having it for comfort at their bedside. You know, maybe they live alone, or if it's somebody that is a creative or an artist that's, you know, a little bit stuck in their practice, I want to use these cards as, say, artist prompts. I want to use these cards for insights and reflections. So insights not only into our day jobs, our creative lives, but into our life and what may be going on the day that you pull the card, or in the moment you choose to pull the card, when that thoughtful moment invites. I do know that always remembering your values is so important when you're an artist, and, you know, what makes you the artist that you are is just constantly reevaluating what are your values, and are you staying true to those values? Are you really staying true to your why? So I love that I can use this little box as a stand, and this top fits so nicely. I recently rebranded myself, and I love the colors that you see in a lot of my work kind of pulled in. And yeah, so this this Oracle deck is now available on my website under my name, alisondurant.com. So I do ship worldwide, and if you're interested, I would just be honored that people like my work and want to purchase the deck. So that's just a little plug for the deck, whoops, and myself. And back to, well, these little cats, I guess I could just tell you a little bit about them. So those of you that know me know that I paint watercolor, but I also love painting with acrylic inks. So this entire painting was both acrylic inks and acrylic paint. And I use paint pen for details, and then I do the fine line work with Posca pens. And I think it's pretty cool that you can see the texture in here. And the texture that I got, for instance, around this little nose right here, is from my Neocolor 1 wax crayon, and I'm able to varnish over that without anything moving. I do use Spectrafix, which is like a fixative, so once I've done the acrylic inks and I do accents, you can see the little rosy cheeks were done with a pink Neocolor 1 wax crayon. And yeah, and then you can go over with a matte varnish. So always making sure your work is really fixed down. And this, because it's not gloss, it makes this less likely to run, especially when you use black paint pens and acrylic ink. And I don't know what it is about the black Poscas, but they do tend to run, even though they're considered permanent after many, many days. So this matte varnish went on these little guys really well. And as I was mentioning with my Oracle deck, really taking the time, you know, this is a very, very small canvas, and instead of rushing through it, I just really wanted to take my time on these little paintings, as though, you know, just because it's a small painting doesn't mean it should be really quickly painted, because for me it's that process of enjoying it. And I'm really trying to practice that right now in my life, because I do tend to put that pressure on myself for being productive and getting things done. And, you know, it's just about enjoying this moment that we're in right now and doing something that we find joy in and valuing that and kind of honoring that. So these are a little bit tacky. I'm going to let them dry, but I'm really excited that I did a collection of 9 that really turned out well. And the other things that I'm working on these little minis. Now these aren't finished yet. These are 4-inch square canvases, and I do gesso them. So for those of you that wonder, I do add Liquitex white gesso just to get down that tooth, so the paint really goes on the canvas well. And you can see that this is kind of my style that I've started here, just a bit of a loose style with a lot of blank space. I love the line work, so I'm adding line work. And well, actually I do have one that's finished here. So this collection that I'm working on, this is an example of one of them. Oh, and I should show you. These are little proofs of another one from the collection. So this is a new collection I have coming up called As We Cloud Our Vision. And it's all about how we squint our eyes. And I squint my eyes when I'm trying to paint, when I'm trying to really see things intuitively, what I'm doing on the page, where do I want to add what color and what mark. And as I cloud my vision, that's what I think about. And I also have a little family member that has had to wear an eye patch due to an eye condition, and just really strengthening one eye and protecting the other one and letting the other one catch up. So because of that, and going through that process of, you know, having to patch every day for hours, and it just made me think of, I was starting this painting and I use a lot of white space. This is a canvas print, just an example of an original I had done for my collection. I was just seeing how the colors came out. But I chose As We Cloud Our Vision because of the white space, the blank space, almost the cloudy look. I think of my art as kind of dreamy art in the sky. And I don't know if that makes sense. Gardens in the sky, but almost like I use, how do you say? I use a lot of fluid art, and I love just the different textures. Anyways, so this is what I'm kind of working on currently. I do make prints of my work, so I like to get the prints before I sell the originals and just make sure the colors match. This is a giclée print, a really high quality fine art print. Very, very high quality material. And so yeah, this is a gessoed canvas. You can see I have a little bit of bronze in here. My gold moon, which is something I do in a lot of my work. And it's very loose, it's very free, it has a lot of white space, which I love. And I am just working on some little minis because they're fun. I also found really neat floater frames that actually come with these little canvases, and I just happened to be looking at the place, someone's going to ask me, locally, Destination Art, which is on Northmount Drive in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. They are absolutely wonderful. So look up Destination Art, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And they don't always have these in stock, but these are, I bought this together and I bought different sizes. It's basically a gallery wide canvas, so 1.5 inches, that is sitting in this floater frame. And then you would have to put on your get out your tools and attach the back, and they're just beautiful, and it really takes it up a notch. You know, if you think about a small wall, this looks great, especially if you can do the edges. But this, to show you actually the edge, I love to paint the edges of my work. So there's my signature. And, you know, so I would do my signature here as well with that little leaf. And I'm really lucky because my dad does woodwork and he's so supportive of me and my art. And he sanded these down and used a sort of a wood finish, varnish, and it looks so much like when I first purchased it, believe it or not, but it feels really, really smooth. And you can tint these, you can stain the wood panel if you know what you're doing. I don't. You could go though to a hardware store and look into a proper type of wood stain, and these can be stained darker colors to match furniture in your home. I'm really sidetracking today, but I don't care because I am doing this video for myself. So for anyone that just doesn't find it interesting, they can check out, there's so many things on YouTube. So hopefully this inspires some of you that are creatives. I'll just show you what my little cat looks like in there. It looks pretty cute, and just a great way to kind of finish your art. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? I have a whole bunch of, I'm just trying to decide, what do I want to do? I think I want to do a warm-up with you all. I have all of these little cut up old paintings. These ones I can definitely finish. A lot of just practice stuff. When I was traveling, I had made some of these just for fun. They're not finished. It would be fun to finish a few. And yeah, we could just, that one's a good one to finish. Sometimes I forget what I have in my piles. And oh, and this is actually an Oracle deck card. So if I look at my Oracle deck, it's very green, so it will jump out at me probably. And this is another one I really love, Practice Kindness and Compassion. And I'd written nurture on the art. The only thing I find with these, they're so beautifully reproduced, really accurate colors. They're just very saturated. So when you look at this, you don't get that watercolor effect as much, but I'm just really pleased with how they've turned out. They're so stunning. And again, it's all of my original art on here. And I've sold a lot of these originals. They came in all different shapes and sizes. And here's this one. So this just shows the original. You can see the metallics are pretty awesome. So it is hard to lose metallics when you do photography of your work. There's little tricks that you can do, and especially embellishing your work after. But I ordered 500 of these decks, so I wasn't going to go through and embellish all of them. I'd have to open up the package, and that would be pretty cool to do, but I don't know how well. It just gives me an idea. I don't know how well it would be to embellish on here. It's too glossy, I think. It's like laminated. But yeah, just to see the process, I had used for this, oh, it wasn't this one. I had used some watercolor paper, 140 pounds, and I had just written on here what I thought about the art. So I intuitively painted this piece, and then before I was ready to put these images into the computer, I had written down on here abundance, nature, forest, lush, thrive, sweet spot, shine, stand out, trees. So those are all the words that came to my mind. And then I got that photography done, and that is sort of where I came up with grow in nature. So just thinking about the benefits of greenery and being in nature, and how most of us really spend a large portion of our time indoors. That's kind of fun, just being able to come across that little original and then being able to show it to you in my Oracle deck. And I'd love to finish some of these. So this one really speaks to me right now. I love the colors. I think I did a YouTube video with you all when I had started this one. I also love this one. That's pretty cool, that metallic purple. So what I can do, let's just find a couple blank cards and we will paint on them. I'm gonna have a little water break here. Okay. So what I want you to do is get out your 140-pound watercolor paper. I'm just going to work on these little cards because I can. They're right here handy, but my favorite watercolor paper, I wouldn't say my favorite, but really great quality if you're just starting out, is Canson XL watercolor paper, 140 pounds. So making sure that you get a really heavy weight. Instead of, expensive watercolors, I'd rather have higher quality paper. Now, not every artist would agree with that. This is another good one. You can see I was testing out my pens here. And this is the Michaels in-house brand, Artist Loft. 140 pounds. So again, it's a heavier weight paper. And then as far as watercolors, I'm going to use my Ocean Paper watercolor sets. And I'll probably use my Kuretake. I'm just going to see, I zoom you. No, I'm going to keep you out for now. So I have my watercolor sets. I have my round brush. This is a number 12 round, Princeton Art and Brush Co. I love these because they're synthetic brush fibers. And before I start, I just want to say that I am not affiliated with anybody at this time. I don't promote any products to get paid, and I just wanted to say that because that's something that has come up. I have different companies reaching out, some good, some not as good, and it would take away the enjoyment of just being able to paint with whatever I want. So at this time, I'm not affiliated with any companies. And also, I've heard from some of you that you have tried to purchase from Kauai, theoceanpaper.com, to get these little bamboo palettes or these little paints. And unfortunately, I too put in an order a couple weeks ago, around September 3rd. And what is it, around, it's been at least 2 weeks. And I have not heard back from them. And I had one of you had reached out to me and is also waiting. And I do feel a little bit concerned because I know the people that run this company, they're into extreme sports. They're both free divers. And if you know anything about free diving, it's where you're holding your breath for record lengths of time underwater and doing more extreme depth diving. It's very risky, and anyways, I have reached out to them many times. Long story, haven't heard back. So I'm just really hoping that they're on vacation or that the fires on the other island have not affected business for them. So I don't necessarily really recommend any products right now because, again, I'm not affiliated, and if there's somebody that you've bought from and they haven't gotten back, it's not something, of course, that I would want to promote. So here I'm talking and distracted, and I got out my Daniel Smith watercolors, and I forget the names of all these because I had squeezed them out of the tubes, and this was before I was really a full-time artist doing YouTube, so I don't know what's what, but you can just pick colors that you love, pick what's in front of you, pick what's affordable for you, and I'm going to just walk you through my process of color craving. So as you could see, I activated my watercolors, which means spritzing the palettes with my water, and I'm working fairly small. This is just probably about 6 inches by maybe 7 or 8. I'm gonna wet my round brush, and I'm just gonna go with what I'm craving in the moment. And for me, I do often crave pinks. Maybe it's because I just watched the Barbie movie the other night with my husband, and maybe pink is on my mind, and I'm gonna go right into just getting that color down that I love, and then I'm gonna choose another color without actually washing my brush. I have like a painter's kind of rag, aka like an old kitchen towel that I use. So if you wanna, get off some of that excess pigment, you can put it on there, or you could start a second painting, which I love to do, and just get out that color. So we'll just get out that color here. Immediately I'm drawn to metallic, so I want to add in some of this Daniel Smith. I think it's like an iridescent bronze. That's my best guess. And I'm immediately craving this sort of a yellow ochre, maybe a little bit more of a greenish color, and just getting that down on my page. And all we're doing is choosing colors in the moment that we feel like and just putting them on the paper. learning what the brush feels like in your hand. Not thinking about, you know, something that went on yesterday or what you have coming up today. Maybe you're just, you know, multitasking when you're watching this video. You might be, I know some of you like to cook and watch my videos or do the laundry, and I'm the same, that I like to do that as well. And I love contrast in my work, so I am craving a little bit darker color, maybe like a darker gray or a blackish gray. I'm not sure what this color is I'm dipping into right now. And I'm just gonna, it is quite black. It's maybe more black than I would like, as far as I'm gonna break it up by maybe adding something lighter over top. And the good thing is, when the watercolor is still wet, you can sort of use a wet on wet technique, which means adding in wet paint over a not dried layer, a layer that's not dried yet. And I like that, but I'm just gonna kind of extend it out a bit. And I'm just not caring at this point what it looks like. And again, use colors that you love. Use colors that you're just, even if you're just craving it, don't second guess it, just try it out. You can see I'm just adding in, I added a lot of orange over here and then just a tiny bit over here. And a color that, again, I'm really surprised to be craving right now is this sort of a greenish color. And I'm just gonna, what you do is you just add enough that you can kind of see it and decide yay or nay. And so I've added that in, and I'm squinting my eyes, I'm clouding my vision, just like I called my new collection As We Cloud Our Vision. And I do like that, so I want to go with that. I might want to add in different shades, different, I guess, hues of green. You can see this green in here I absolutely love. I went back on the Ocean Paper watercolor site in Kauai to see if I could figure out if they still had that color, and I didn't see it. And so I'm just going to appreciate having some of it left, and maybe it will give me an opportunity to make my own green at some point, because I know how much I love it. And I'm really enjoying this composition and these colors, but I don't want to do green on this one. And I'm going to see if we can zoom you in a little bit. I love peach. That's another color I use all the time. This rose color, this peachy rose. And we're just not thinking about what we're doing other than getting colors down that we love, and try not to move them around too much with your paintbrush. I'm making quite a mess here on my fake dollar store granite background. I purchased this quite a while ago. Well, you know what? I think I bought it at Michael's, and it was like kind of expensive. It's like this fake photography background, and the other side has another countertop. And then it was recommended by an artist I was taking a course from on, you know, business and photography and making, you know, selling your work, and how it's really great to have as a background. And I had purchased it, and then like a week later, I saw it at the dollar store, the Dollarama, for like, it wasn't the exact same thing, but it was really close, really same quality. And it was like probably $2.50 instead of what I paid, like 20 something. So it was good learning. It was kind of funny. I can laugh at it now. And I'm adding in a color, this sort of lighter, I don't know what color that is. It's a really pretty greenish blue. And then I'm just gonna leave those there. And before I walk away from them, you know, like I'm at the point where I've painted so much. I paint every day for hours, as long as I can. I prioritize painting. So I'm very comfortable with knowing when to stop. I love white space. So on this side on the left, I didn't do a ton of white space, but on this side, I left quite a bit of white space. I also like to add drips to my work. So this one here, I'm just gonna add a little bit more orange in those areas. I added a bit too much paint, but I'm gonna drip this one because it's just telling me it wants to be grounded. Same with that pink drip. Funny enough, the pink one is dripping and the orange one's not, and that's okay. I really like that. This reminds me of a hike in Alberta and sort of like maybe a waterfall in the background, really abstract. But we're gonna let these dry and then we're gonna use all of those incredible permanent supplies over top. And if you're enjoying doing the backgrounds, I just encourage you to keep doing them. And I'm just gonna work on, let's see what colors are speaking to me in the moment. I've got a lot going on in this pile here. I'm gonna do maybe this one because it's really pretty. The colors speak to me right now. And I used a little piece of Wacta paper. You can also use origami paper and a little bit of matte medium or just a glue stick just to glue it down. If you're not selling your work, I would say, you know, a glue stick's great. If you are selling your work, I would use a really good matte or gloss gel medium or yes paste, something that's, you could even maybe seal over top as well as underneath. And it's kind of neat because with these abstract backgrounds, you can change the point of view, change which way you're looking at it. That's actually kind of a neat position right here. And I know that I want to go in with my gold Sharpie paint pen. And I'm gonna do a round moon in here. So yeah, usually I work this way. Do I want to work that way? You know what? I'm just trying to decide. No, I think I do want to work this way. I'll just make sure you guys are zoomed in all the way. So I'm using my water-based Sharpie paint pen, and I'm just gonna not use my stencil and make a little round moon in there because I like that. And sometimes when I'm thinking about what I want to do, I add my signature. And I'm just going to grab my pen for that. Another great Dollarama Studio Gel 0.5 millimeter pen. I'm in Canada, but they're pretty awesome. And I just want to sign up the side. So this is a permanent pen. And you can see when I went over the watercolor, it depends on the paper. You have to experiment. You can see I kind of lost some of the ink, but that's okay. So I love the idea of paint pens over top of this, but what I really want to do is maybe add some of my Neocolor crayons. These micron pens are also great. I'm just sort of learning to use these. And just deciding what colors do I want to do. Okay, here we go. Okay, If only you could see my little organizational system. I'll have to share that sometime. I know I had a few people say, how do you have everything so accessible during your videos? And it's a nice compliment, because I think I have to tidy every couple days just to be able to find things. And I'm going to use my Neocolor 2 crayon, which is a water-soluble crayon. And I'm just going to decide what I want to do here. I'm just going to add some little marks. And if I don't like them, I can use my paintbrush and kind of, you know, play around with moving them around. I can go right over top of the paper there, maybe right off to the side. And I'm gonna do, this is a Neocolor 1, which does not move with water. And I'm just going to add it in, again, maybe a slightly larger mark. Hopefully my tripod's not wiggling here with you guys. I think it's my lights probably that are wiggling. I'll do some green in here. And just fun mark making. I really like the idea of, I haven't added in my little polka dots yet. I'm gonna add maybe some round polka dots just in this area here, just around the sun in the orange. They're very subtle, but I like that. And I'm gonna do maybe something more bold. I love these Uniball metallic pens. They're wonderful. I love these neon jelly roll pens. So it's just, you know, keeping supplies you love nearby and figuring out how can you incorporate them into your work while staying true to your style. And I love using a really, really fine pen to kind of do almost what looks like pencil marks, and just kind of going around like that with no rhyme or reason, and then maybe just another slightly loose mark over there. And then I'm going to add in, I might add in the birds that I love so much, which is like, I'll do a little bird here, and then maybe one over here, and maybe a small one up there. And that was just habit. I don't know if I love it after adding those in, but that's okay. And right now I'm wanting to pull in some of the pattern in this Nepalese lock-to paper. And so I'm just going to emulate sort of what was on the other side here of and kind of making those little heart petals. And I don't love that. Okay, so here's an example when I don't enjoy something I've done. I'm going to resolve it, as Helen Wells would say. Helen Wells art, she's lovely. I'm going to add some white paint, which is just like sort of editing my work, which I've talked about. And then I'm going to go back over top with something else. And I feel like the collage paper, it's great, but maybe I overdid it a bit. I'm feeling like there's an awful lot of red down here. So this, I'm using a white paint. So you can use just any paint. And I'm using an old brush that actually I'd cut off the bristles. So it was originally, I think, a watercolor brush. And you can see some of the paint picked up the white there, but already I'm enjoying this more. So it's about finding what you enjoy and not repeating what you're not enjoying. And this is sort of a good practice if you're trying to find your own style. So sometimes you remove too much, but that's an opportunity waiting to happen. So it's an opportunity to etch in. So I'm gonna find, just before my paint dries, actually I have a skewer, which is awesome. I usually don't have those handy. And I'm just gonna decide what shape. I like those leaves in here, so I'm just drawing in over top that white paint that's almost dry, and you can just see that the red watercolor is showing up underneath, and I really love that. And if I didn't like it, I would just go back, add white over top a little bit thicker the second time, and then I would etch in again. And maybe I'll just etch in sort of loosely over here, and I'm just gonna go maybe put a small one here, a small leaf. And I'm already really liking this better. You can also use like affordable paints. So this is DecoArt Americana. Give it a little shake. You can buy these probably anywhere, any craft store, dollar store probably. This one's dried a little bit. We're in Calgary, we're quite dry here usually. Although that being said, the weather is changing. It's quite cool here today, 6 degrees, and a few days ago I think it was like 20 something, 26. Okay, so I've decided to use Winter Blue Americana DecoArt paint because I love that color up there, and I just want to maybe add in some color here and add in some texture. And I kind of like it going on chunky like that. I'm gonna do a little bit more up here and maybe going off the page here while cleaning my brush a bit, getting the paint off. So that is where we're at. So this is becoming very much a mixed media piece with watercolor that had been dried with Nepalese Lacta paper, aka collage paper, craft paper, origami paper, magazine, whatever you have, maybe transfer paper. And right now I don't want to waste this paint, so I'm going to create a new painting. And maybe what I'll do is I pulled this out. I'm just going to use my spray bottle. And what I do is I am really brave. I take a painting I'm working on and I spritz the paintbrush right over top. So this is watercolor paper. So fortunately it's going to dry pretty quick. And I love how it's picking up the purple in that I believe it was a water-soluble crayon, or what was it? Or pencil crayon. I was actually away at the time visiting family out of province, and I was just playing around with paint, and I took some supplies to travel with, so I can't remember what it was, but here we are creating another painting and learning a little bit during the process about what we're enjoying. So I'm actually really enjoying having added this acrylic paint around some of these areas of watercolor supply and having the colors merge. It's just kind of neat. Okay, so that was a good way of not wasting paint and also a way of discovery. So we'll just set that one aside. I love, like when I don't do videos, I have many paintings on the go. I love to work on multiple paintings. The only restrictive factor is often the table size that I'm working on. But try to, when you start to hone in on your style, well, even if you haven't honed in on your style, work on multiples, because it's just incredible what that can do for your art practice and getting out of your head and not getting attached to anything. So right now, I'm not sure why, I'm just really wanting to add this color in here. It's It's not a color I'd wear. It's, I'm sure if my mother was watching this right now, she'd be like, oh, that's an interesting choice. Right, Mom? Actually, my mom really knows me so well, and she's so sweet to, she'll be out shopping and she'll kind of get ideas on what style might suit me. And, you know, I have to say now that I'm older, she's always right. And this color, I think I just felt like plain. So this is just plain and exploring. So whatever you're working on, just think of it as a study, a little study of just exploration. And, you know, this would be an awesome, it could be a thank you card. I could cut out, say, an area. I'll use my little frame. Make sure my fingers don't have too much, but you can kind of frame a certain part of the work and almost like a little viewfinder and just see what it would look like under a frame. And that's a really great way of zeroing in on the areas that you want to keep, or, you know, how you would want to frame it, what you want to do with it. So I'm going to let that one dry, and I feel like I've been on here for a while today, so I'm going to end the video by pulling a card out of my Oracle deck. Just make sure I have a fairly clean table here. I already have matte medium on the card deck. I don't need more paint, not yet anyway. And so I'm just gonna open up the card deck here, and I'll give it a little shuffle. I'll try and cloud my vision so I don't see what I'm doing. Okay, interesting. So this piece is my mountain painting titled "And There You'll Be." And it has a lot of meaning in the title. And there you'll be is almost when creativity came into my life, and when my art became a business, and when everything just felt so right. It was so in place, and I was at a really happy place. I'm still at a happy place, but I just sat down and painted what I felt. And the background came one evening when I was really tired, and I just decided to pick colors that I normally wouldn't have, but I was craving certain colors. I usually don't use so many reds with the dark blue. And this painting really just came out of letting go and trusting the process and letting my story unfold. And I'd pulled this card before the event I just did this past weekend. So the event was at a car dealership, and it was Mercedes-Benz Canada, and I was painting live, and I had donated 3 paintings for the neonatal ICU. And it was really good learning, because I knew that if I wanted to kind of follow my own story and trust the process, I decided not to overthink it. And I knew that if I wanted to fit in with kind of the trending crowd, if I wanted to get on social media and have people, film me or really stand out, I would have dressed to the nines. I would have really fit in with the color theme I was given. But instead of dressing up, wearing, black and fancy outfit, I chose to wear some pediatric scrubs that, because I was a nurse and I moved from a nursing career after many years to becoming an artist, my story started with being a nurse, and I started in pediatrics. And because this fundraiser, although it was at a car dealership, it was centered around raising money for the neonatal ICU, so those preterm babies that need so much support just to kind of get started in their life, and a really great cause. And I tell you, I stood out like a sore thumb because I had on these wild red and yellow and blue, a wild scrub top that my mom had made, but it was so comfortable, and it was so part of my trusting in the process and trusting to follow my story, because my story was very much wrapped up in how I presented myself. And so I stood out like a sore thumb, and it was not an event I would do again just because it was not suited to me and my art and my style. And I felt like I was part of a strange reality show where everybody was just, again, sort of like, well, we won't go there. Just, I looked very different in my jeans and my scrubs, but I really just stuck with what felt authentic and what I valued. And it goes back to when I was telling you about my values at the beginning of this, and not getting wrapped up into the details, because if I really overthought it, I would have wanted to fit in. I would have wanted to paint it in the color scheme I was given for the night. And instead, I just really decided to trust the process, which I do in art. And I trusted that for this life event. And I feel like my story unfolded into that because I just realized, do I really want to do these live events? Do I really want to fit the mold and just be somebody I'm not in order to get myself out there? And there's a lot of learning in that. This past weekend, there was so much learning. So this card is interesting, and it has a lot of meaning for me. It was basically, and there you'll be. So knowing that something is there for you, whether it's, a person or again, that relationship we have with creativity, which will always be with us. And isn't that an amazing thing? So just letting your story unfold. Your story is going to be different than my story. And so we'll leave that there. Someday I want to actually paint this style with you all. And obviously I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So a large part of my roots, my story is the mountains and those themes. Oddly enough, my scrub top was so bright and wild, and it really matches this card, which is kind of fun. So anyways, I decided to wear my scrubs as art smocks instead of a fancy outfit, and I'm really proud of myself because it really was hard, and I think that's what helped me get back to these videos, because that's where I fit in best and that's what I love, and I'm doing this for myself. So we'll just say goodbye for now, and I'll see you soon. And thank you for all of you that have purchased this deck and maybe waiting for it. And for those of you, if it's, I understand that it's not in everybody's budget or accessible, and I really hope to share the deck through my videos if you choose to follow along. So I'm really grateful for you all being here, and we'll just leave it at that.